Sakupen Circles by Nick24. This is the unnerfed version. Is it the hardest 9 circles level ever created? Well, the rated version definitely is. The hardest verified 9 circles level. The unnerfed version is definitely harder than the rated version, and it has now been verified, not with pause buffering, but actually at normal speed, which is ridiculous, considering how much of a choke point the spam is, and today, I'm going to bot it and see how ridiculous it really is. Even though I'm not good at the game, I feel like playing through this at 0.3 is probably going to be a more accurate representation of the difficulty than playing through it in practice mode. I will be able to get further, and I will die less to bad checkpoints, which will artificially inflate the difficulty of the level. The start of this really isn't even that bad. In fact, I'm actually just going to go into full speed. Yeah, this is actually pretty easy. Wow. Okay, this is hard. Hardest 9 circles level ever? Honestly, with this gameplay and the cube and the ship, this isn't even close to being anywhere on the demon list. This is like insane demon gameplay. Apart from, I cannot pull that part of the ship off. I'm just not good enough. Although I reckon I would be able to do this. Yep. However, we're going to bring it back to normal speed now because I reckon I could do this. Yep, easily. And I could do this in normal speed too, I reckon. Once again, this feels like hard to insane demon level difficulty. It's not even close to being the hardest 9 circles level ever made. And oh my god, these jumps are free. I reckon I could do these jumps in one run. Okay, maybe I'm overestimating myself, but these are like the equivalent difficulty of triples. Okay, maybe they're a little bit harder than triples. Okay, those jumps are actually harder than expected, but I was terrible at timings, so like, it makes sense why I would be struggling here, but generally, despite the fact that it doesn't look like it, those jumps are actually easy. And then this is the infamous wave. This is where like 90% of the difficulty comes from. This is why it's the hardest verified 9 circles level. This is where I'm going to go into 0.3x, and I'll still struggle in 0.3x, I reckon. Okay, I died to dumb click. Like, this is such an oddly spaced corridor right here. Like, what is this? There's a whole gap just here that you can fill in with another structure. It's almost like there was a spike there, but they just decided to remove it. And then we have all the really tight clicks. You know, each one of these wave parts was individually separated as challenges at one point. Like there was a 40% challenge, which was just its first wave here with all the micro clicks in it. I'm still struggling with its 0.3x speed. Lots of people have tried to beat this level over the years. A lot of previous world records died to the infamous spam, which will get up to a second, which is like 15 clicks per second spam. And then there was one person called Skylar who basically bet the whole level in a no-clip run, only had like 1 death. Okay, this looks ridiculous. But from what I remember, that middle section, yeah, it does not have any hitboxes, despite it looking like it has hitboxes. So if I really wanted to, I could go like this and then just spam at a ridiculous rate. But that'd be stupid. There we go. That transition was terrible. You know, lots of old impossible levels have terrible transitions. And here it is. This is the infamous spam that in the later parts get up to 15 clicks per second. In fact, this was like a straight up top 5 spam challenge at one point, and the first person to ever complete this spam, I think, was Join Molten. However, he died at like the last click pretty much, although people considered it basically a completion of the spam at the time, and proved that the spam was indeed possible. However, people have gone so far to have like, you know, beaten the spam twice in a row, or like 3 times in a row or whatever, or even like buffed versions of the spam. So sure, this spam is ridiculous, but there's some people who can somehow do this consistently, which is ridiculous. I don't know what I'm going to do once I get up to that gravity portal. Like, I don't know how I'm going to click. You know, this could probably technically be done at 14 clicks per second, but the room for error is a lot tighter because you'll be closer to the tops and the bottom of the structure, which is, I guess, why a lot of the people who play this try and spam this section at 15 clicks per second so that it is tighter and therefore it is harder to hit the top or the bottom. However, you have to spam faster, and having control while spamming is definitely a skill that does not come easily. There we go. I still don't know how people do this transition here. This is ridiculous. Yeah, I'm gonna have to start from here again. There we go. I guess it's spam muscle memory. It's so hard to believe that you can have like spam muscle memory, but apparently it's a thing, because how else would they be able to beat this level? And this is the other infamous part of this level, which is basically a memory section. Like, you don't go between here and then spam in there, because that's impossible. I mean, take a look at these hitboxes here. There's no way you can spam in that little gap there. There are probably people who could spam like that. As you can see through these hitboxes here, we have to go through these diamonds in a ridiculous fashion. Many double clicks are necessary. In fact, this part, which was called 66p because, you know, 66% through the level, was also its own challenge on the challenge list at one point. So we have the first part of the wave that is ridiculous, we got this memory section, and we have the 15 clicks per second spam, and these 3 parts are pretty much what makes it the hardest 9 circles level in Geometry Dash that has been verified. Well, the only major difference between the rated and the unnerfed is that the rated has got better decoration and the spam is significantly nerfed. It's more like 11 clicks per second instead of the 15 clicks per second with all the control that you need in the unnerfed version. I can imagine this would not be a fun grind, the wave stuff. I mean, this part looks pretty tight, but it's easier than you think. It's only like 2 clicks. You see there's a saw there, which blocks us off, but we can't go up there. So where do we go, you ask? Well, we have to go right there. So we have to go like that in order to do it. Which then sets us up for this dual wave spam, which isn't too difficult. Although it is pretty tricky to see because it's hard to tell, you know, which one is the bottom wave or the top wave. You just have to kind of click consistently. I mean, personally, I'm terrible at these types of spams. You know, one person who was trying to verify Sakupen circles, called Total GD, died right here. The way was suggested by another Unnerfed Sakupen circles player as like a cool swag route, and they tried to do the swag route because I guess they had in their muscle memory, so they passed like 95% of the difficulty with the wave and then died to this part, which is quite easy. I'm actually going to give it a go. And then just lie on the bottom. It's very easy in. It took them 440,000 attempts to get as far as they did, and then just to die there, you know. That's the sort of stuff that would make you quit the game forever. However, the person to finally verify Sakupen circles was 83 US GMD. GMD being Geometry Dash, who bet it in 267,000 attempts. So there exists a rated version of Sakupen circles that is like around top 15-ish on the demon list now, which is crazy. And because that version is rated, I think it is unlikely that the unnerfed version will get rated. After all, the rated version does look better, has better gameplay. With today's difficulty standards and the levels that do exist on the demon list today, if this were to be placed on the demon list, is it the hardest thing that Geometry Dash players have achieved? And I would say it's very unbalanced with sections like this, and honestly all these wave sections and stuff alone is pretty much the difficulty of this level. And based off these sections alone, I don't think that it would be top 1, considering we have things like Amethyst and Thinking Space 2 that have gameplay parts that are as difficult as that first wave in Sakupen circles, but just throughout the whole level. And sure, like the infamous spam might be a harder part than any of the parts ever in Amethyst or Thinking Space 2, but because the gameplay of these levels is so compressed and every piece of the gameplay is ridiculously hard, I don't think that it would be top 1. Difficulty in this era is definitely becoming more and more fragmented, and what do I mean by that? I mean, there are beginning to be more and more levels on the demon list that have sections in it that only pro players with specific skill sets are able to beat because of the speed in which difficulty is progressing. The demon list is becoming a lot like the challenge list. I remember there was a video I saw 6 months ago about how the challenge list may no longer be possible for a single person to beat, and I mean, sure, people aren't meant to beat the entire challenge list. There are levels on the challenge list that not a lot of people can beat because they'd have to be say like ridiculously good at Swingcopter or ridiculously good at controlled spam or something, and not every challenge player are ridiculously good at those things. So there's only like a certain number of levels that someone who say is super cracked at wave would be able to beat on the challenge list. And it looks like that is coming to the demon list. Now I'm not necessarily saying that that is a bad thing, because the demon list is meant to be a list that rates the difficulty of levels. Naturally, because of the way that some people are ridiculously good at some things, and the difficulty has reached that point now, I can imagine there'd be a lot more levels like Unnerfed Sakupen circles that could get verified in the future, and I think this is a natural progression of difficulty as we get closer and closer to the human limit. There will just be some levels that not every pro player will be able to complete, and I think Sakupen circles is just the biggest case of one of these fragmented levels that now require a very unbalanced skill set that is now verified. So yeah, that is my video on Unnerfed Sakupen circles. A crazy accomplishment for AD-free US GMD. Very well deserved. GG after 267,000 attempts.